It's Jack with Jack Banks MMA, and we are going to be going over our best bets for UFC 278. I hope it goes better than last weekend. See you guys soon. All right, so let's kick it off with our main event, which is Kamaru Usman taking on Leon Edwards. Now, of course, as many of you know, this is a rematch from 6 or 7 years ago where Usman frankly out wrestled him. It really isn't much more complex than that, right? Usman was coming in. Both of them were very early in their careers and their UFC careers especially. And Usman found an advantage in the fight early and went back to it often. And I think he had over 10 minutes of control time in the fight against Leon Edwards. Now, at this point, Usman has been the champion for a couple of years now. And Edwards has been clamoring for a title shot for also a couple of years now. So this fight and this rematch has definitely seemed like it's been on the horizon for a while. Now, with that being said, to go into the tail of the tape a little bit here, we have Usman with an outstanding record of 20-1. He is 35 years old, 6 foot, with about a 76-inch reach or so. So Edwards will have a height advantage of 2 inches, but a reach deficit of 2 inches as well. His record is 19-3, and he is 30 years old. So, with that being said, a lot of times, or historically, I should say, 60 to 65% of the time in rematches, the younger fighter does win. So, in some ways, that does give an edge to Edwards. However, if you want to look at the flip side, Usman, while being the champion, has been far more active than Edwards, and I think that's going to be a benefit for Usman in this fight. Additionally, while Edwards has certainly improved as a grappler, Usman has improved as a striker. And I don't think Usman is going to wrestle as much as he did in their first matchup. I mean, Usman just hasn't been wrestling as much in his last few fights. He's been having a good time with the striking. Now, some of that has to do with the opponent. And in the Maxwell matchup, it certainly seemed like he had a point to prove in the stand-up. But I do think, in this fight against Leon Edwards, with the caliber striker that Edwards is, Usman will look to take it to the ground at some point in this fight. The question is when, and that is hard for me to say. Now, to go into the odds on this fight, you have Usman around minus 400 right now, and Edwards at plus 300. So, to me, if I, from a betting standpoint, which is the purpose of this video, it's hard for me to play Usman in this spot. The question becomes, is Edwards worth a roll of the dice as an underdog? And to me, I think he is, but I don't think it makes sense to play heavy on Edwards. I'd say, light, like quarter of a unit or less in this spot on Edwards. Maybe look to take him by decision. I'm sure those odds will be better as well. So for me, this is probably a fight that I'm going to pass personally. But it should be a fun fight to watch nonetheless. All right, next up we have a matchup of Paulo Costa taking on Luke Rockhold. Now, Paulo Costa is from Brazil, 13-2 record, 31 years old, 6'1". Last fight, and we'll get into this in a bit, he weighed in at 205, and his reach is 72 inches. Now, on the flip side, you have Luke Rockhold from the U.S., 16-5 record, 37 years old, 6'3". Also, his last fight was at 205, and his reach is 77 inches. Now, this is a very, very intriguing matchup, in my opinion, because there's some uncertainty on both sides. I think a lot of people are focusing on the uncertainty with Luke Rockhold, and rightfully so. He hasn't fought in nearly 3 years. He hasn't fought at middleweight in, I believe, nearly 4. So, and we know from his fight against Yoel Romero, he was talking about the cut to middleweight was getting really difficult for him. and that's why he moved up to take on Jan at 205. So for him to be going back to middleweight after nearly 3 years off is a bit concerning to me. And that's, mind you, not even talking about some of the issues with Luke Rockhold in terms of his durability at this point in his career. The weight cut does play a part in it, and that's not going to help his durability. But I almost think it's another issue on top of the durability, right? It only amplifies it. On the flip side, Paulo Costa is certainly, if nothing else, durable. But he also weighed in at 205 in his last matchup against Marvin Vettori. And as far as I could tell, at least in my research, if you guys found anything, let me know in the comments below. I don't know exactly what was the reason behind it. He just decided, I don't want to cut weight. Let's fight at 205. As far as I know, that seems to be it. So I have to wonder about his weight cut to 185 as well. At the same time, he's been far more active compared to Rockhold. He's younger, he's durable, and he's got power. And his defensive grappling is pretty damn good. His ability to fight off takedowns against Vettori and also against Romero was pretty impressive. And somewhat was technique, right? He does do a really good job. He's much more technical than I think he gets credit for, both with his striking and his grappling. And I think part of that's just because of how strong he is. So, to me, this fight, from a betting perspective, is Costa all day. There's too many questions with Rockhold to me to be able to put a bet on him with any sort of confidence. With that being said, the line on Costa has gotten above minus 300. So I could understand people parlaying it for sure. But for me, I'm going to wait and see what the knockout number comes in at, especially if I can get rounds 1 and round 2 at plus 200 or higher. I would like to play both those rounds, and whichever round he gets it in would work for me. I think I'm going to be playing like half a unit and a quarter of a unit on each of the first 2 rounds. I do think he gets it done early in his matchup against Rockhold. Rockhold needs to grapple, in my opinion. He really does need to grapple. He needs to get in close. But that's going to be dangerous. Costa is a good defensive grappler, so I anticipate Rockhold trying to stay at distance and using his kicks. And the only guy who was able to keep Costa at distance was Adesanya. And I don't think Rockhold is the same level of kickboxer. I don't think he's got the same level of... He doesn't have the same number of tricks in his bag. The feints, the different combinations that Adesanya was throwing. Even the leg kicks. Rockhold is a tremendous kicker, but I feel like Adesanya is a bit more precise, and his footwork is better in terms of being able to maintain a sound defensive stance while throwing offense. And I think at some point in the first or second round, Rockhold will get caught by Costa in this matchup. All right, so last bet for me this weekend is Aoriqileng taking on Jay Perrin. Now, this is an interesting fight for one reason, and I'll get into that in a minute. First, I'll give you the tail of the tape here. So, Aoriqileng, somewhere around a 24-9 record. It has fluctuated recently, but that's the last I saw on Tapology. He's 29 years old, 5'7", and he last fought at bantamweight for his first time, I should say, in his last matchup when he took on Cameron Nelson, got the first round finish. He has 69 inches of reach. Now on the opposite side, we have Jay Perrin from the U.S., 10-5 record, also 29, also 5'7". He does and has fought at bantamweight, and he has a 69-inch reach. Now, this is an intriguing fight to me for one reason. I'll get into that right now. I feel like Aoriqileng fought a lesser version of Jay Perrin in Cody Durden 2 fights ago. Aoriqileng lost that fight. It was a very close fight, but he certainly lost it. On the flip side, I feel like Jay Perrin fought a similar version, although slightly better in my opinion, of Aoriqileng in Mario Bautista in his UFC debut. So I do think that both fighters have got unique insight into some of the capabilities of the other through their previous opponents. Having said that, Aoriqileng has a tremendous experience advantage in this matchup. Striking is far more crisp rather, I should say. And while Perrin is bigger and he will have the wrestling advantage, and for that reason, the odds are where they are. It's not like Aoriqileng is a huge favorite. He's about minus 165, minus 170. It's hard for me to go against Aoriqileng in this matchup. I think he will be able to do enough. Cody Durden was able to slow him down with the wrestling, but he wasn't able to ground him out and kind of dominate him. And I think Jay Perrin isn't as good of a wrestler as Cody Durden. He may have more size, but Aoriqileng will have more size and more endurance because he is at 135 now. And for that reason, I think Aoriqileng wins a close but clear decision. I think it's going to be 29-28. I think he wins the first 2 rounds. And then in the 3rd round, when he does fatigue a little bit, I think Perrin will be able to get some more takedowns, some more control time in that 3rd round and take it. But would I be surprised if Perrin wins this one 29-28 and he takes the 2nd round, or he takes maybe the 1st round and slows down? I wouldn't be surprised to say the least. But from a bank perspective, I think Aoriqileng wins this fight, closer to 7 times out of 10 than 6. And so for that reason, I do think there's value on him, and I will be playing him straight up this weekend. So let me know what you guys think of my bets for UFC 278. What are your bets? Let me know in the comments below. And I'll see you guys in 2 weeks for UFC Paris. See you next time.